Destiny Coleman walked into a wedding she was not invited to. Not for the food, not for the champagne, not for fun. She was looking for her daughter's father. He was standing at the altar in a gray suit with a flower pinned to his chest, marrying someone else. Her 4-year-old was at home with a doctor's letter and a blank space where a father's name should be. She was not there to ruin his day. She was there because her daughter was running out of time. And the man at that altar had spent 4 years making sure nobody knew the child existed. The estate sat behind a stone wall on a private road in Buckhead. White columns, string lights draped between magnolia trees, a valet line that stretched past the gate and curved around the corner. Every car in that line cost more than Destiny made in 2 years. She knew that because she counted. She had been sitting in her Honda Civic in the overflow lot across the street for 11 minutes. Not because she was afraid, not because she was second-guessing. She was on the phone. Keisha picked up on the second ring. Destiny could hear the television in the background, and Amara laughing at something, and the sound of a spoon against a bowl. Cereal for dinner. Keisha always let her have cereal for dinner when she babysat, and Destiny never said anything about it, because some battles are not worth fighting when someone is watching your child for free. "She okay?" Destiny asked. "She is fine," Keisha said. "She ate, she brushed her teeth without being asked. She is watching that movie with the fish again." Destiny closed her eyes for a moment. The fish movie. Amara had seen it 40 times. She could recite every line. She was 4 years old, and she could recite an entire movie from memory, but she could not tell anyone her father's name because nobody had ever told her what it was. "Go do what you need to do," Keisha said. "I got her." Destiny hung up. She looked at herself in the rearview mirror. The dress was dark blue. She had bought it at Goodwill on Camp Creek Parkway 2 years ago for a job interview at a pediatrician's office in East Point. She did not get the job. She never wore the dress again until tonight. In her bag was a manila envelope. Inside the envelope were 3 things: a paternity acknowledgement form, a copy of Amara's birth certificate with the father's name left blank, and a letter from Dr. Adaize Okonkwo at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, explaining that Amara's medical team needed paternal family history to complete her care plan. 3 pieces of paper, 4 years of silence, folded into a 9x12 envelope that Destiny had carried from her apartment in College Park to this stone wall in Buckhead. She got out of the car. She smoothed the dress with both hands. She picked up the envelope. She could smell the flowers from across the street, gardenias and roses and something expensive underneath that she could not name. Every time the front door opened, the scent poured out into the evening air, along with music and laughter and the warm golden light of a room full of people celebrating something they believed was real. Destiny crossed the street. She walked past the valet stand. A man in a black vest looked at her and looked at her car across the road and looked back at her and said nothing. She walked through the front entrance. Nobody stopped her. Nobody asked for an invitation. She was a woman in a blue dress carrying an envelope, and she walked in like she was supposed to be there. The truth was, she was the only person in that building who had a reason to be there that had nothing to do with champagne or dancing or pretending. The room inside was wide and tall. Crystal chandeliers, tablecloths so white they almost glowed. Flower arrangements on every surface. 200 people in suits and gowns holding glasses and talking and laughing. The cocktail hour between the ceremony and the reception. She had timed it. She had looked at the schedule on the bride's public social media page and calculated the window. 30 minutes between the vows and the first course. That was her window. She stood just inside the doorway. She held the envelope against her side. She scanned the room the way you scan a room when you are looking for one face among 200. She did not have to look long. Tyrone Brooks was standing near the center of the room. Gray suit, white boutonniere. His arm around a woman in a beaded gown who was smiling at someone holding a camera. He was laughing. He looked like a man who had never left anyone behind. He looked like a man with nothing to hide. Destiny had driven 45 minutes on I-85 from College Park to Buckhead to stand in this room. She had $11 in her checking account and a manila envelope in her hand and a daughter at home watching a movie about a fish. She walked toward him. 5 years before this night, before the envelope, and the birth certificate, and the blank space, and the blue dress from Goodwill, Destiny Coleman was 24 years old and working the morning shift at Harmony House, an assisted living facility on Washington Road in East Point. She clocked in at 6 every morning. She clocked out at 2 every afternoon. In between, she bathed residents and changed linens and fed people who could not feed themselves and talked to people whose own families had stopped visiting. She was good at the work, not because it was easy, because she understood that being seen by someone when you are at your most vulnerable is not a small thing. The residents called her D. The nurses called her reliable. Her paycheck called her underpaid, but she never used that word herself. She lived alone in a studio apartment on Princeton Avenue in College Park, 480 square feet, a bed against one wall, a kitchen along the other, a bathroom with a door that stuck. She kept it clean. She kept the rent paid. She kept food in the refrigerator and gas in her car, and she did not ask anyone for help because she had learned early that asking for help in a world that does not owe you any is a good way to be disappointed. She met Tyrone Brooks at a cookout in late June at a house on Hapeville Road, a friend of a friend's birthday. Grilled chicken, loud music, folding chairs on the lawn. Destiny almost did not go. She had worked a double shift the day before, and her feet still hurt, and she had a load of laundry that needed folding. But Keisha called her 3 times, and the 3rd time Destiny said fine, and drove over and stood by the cooler with a paper plate and watched people she half knew dance on a concrete patio in the summer heat. Tyrone was standing by the grill, 27 years old, tall, clean shave, button-down shirt rolled at the sleeves. He worked as a sales associate at a car dealership on Old National Highway. He had the kind of voice that sounded like he was always about to tell you something important. He had a way of looking at the person in front of him that made them feel like nobody else in the yard existed. He walked over to Destiny and said something about the potato salad being too salty, and she laughed before she meant to. That was how it started. They were together for 8 months. Together is a complicated word. Tyrone came over to her apartment on Tuesday and Thursday nights, sometimes Saturday. He brought food. He fixed the lock on her bathroom door without being asked. He called her every morning at 6:15 because he knew that was when she was walking into the parking lot at Harmony House, and he said it was because he wanted her voice to be the first thing in his day. She believed that. She had no reason not to. But he never called her his girlfriend. Not once. Not to his friends, not to hers, not to the woman at the front desk of Harmony House who asked Destiny one morning if that man who kept calling was her boyfriend. Destiny said he was someone she was seeing. She left it at that. She told herself that titles are just words and that what mattered was that he showed up. He showed up, he stayed, he called. She told herself that was enough. She noticed things, small things. He never invited her to his apartment. 8 months, and she had never been inside the place where he lived. They always met at hers, or at a restaurant, or at someone else's house, she asked once, early on. He said his place was small and messy and not ready for company. She accepted that. She filed it somewhere in the back of her mind where things you do not want to examine too closely go to sit in the dark. She did not know yet what that detail meant. She would understand it later. Then she told him she was pregnant. She found out at 9 weeks. A test from the dollar store confirmed what her body had already been telling her for 2 weeks. She sat on the edge of her bathtub in that studio apartment on Princeton Avenue and looked at the result and did not move for a long time. Not because she was scared, because she was calculating. The math of raising a child on $13.60 an hour. The math of diapers and daycare and doctor visits on a paycheck that barely covered rent. She did the math, and the math did not work, and she called Tyrone anyway because he was the father and he deserved to know. He picked up on the 4th ring. She told him. She said it plainly. No preamble, no softening. I am pregnant. It is yours. I am 9 weeks. He did not say anything for 14 seconds. She counted. Not on purpose. The clock on her microwave was in her line of sight, and she watched the numbers change while she waited for him to speak. "Are you sure it is mine?" he said. Destiny did not answer that question. She pulled the phone away from her ear. She looked at it. She set it face down on the counter. She did not call him back that day. Tyrone called back 3 days later. He did not ask how she was feeling. He did not ask whether she had been to a doctor. He asked whether she had thought about her options. That was the word he used. Options. Like there was a menu and she had not yet placed her order. She told him she was keeping the baby. He said he needed time to think about things. She said okay. She hung up. The time he needed lasted 4 years. He changed his phone number within the month. His social media accounts disappeared, or at least they disappeared from Destiny's view. She sent one email to the address she had. It bounced. She drove to the dealership on Old National Highway where he worked. The woman at the front desk said he had transferred to another location. She asked, which location? The woman said she could not share that information. Destiny went home. She sat on her bed. She put her hand on her stomach. She was 13 weeks by then. She could not feel the baby move yet. She would not feel that for another month. But she spoke to her anyway, out loud in an empty apartment, to a person who did not yet have ears to hear. "It is just going to be me and you," she said, "and that is going to be enough." Amara Destiny Coleman was born on a Tuesday in November at Grady Memorial Hospital in Atlanta, 6 pounds, 11 ounces, full head of dark hair, eyes open and looking at the ceiling like she had arrived with questions. Keisha was in the delivery room. She was the only person there besides the nurses. She cut the cord because Destiny asked her to, and because the space next to the bed where a second parent might have stood was empty, and nobody acknowledged it, and Keisha filled it without being asked. The nurse brought the birth certificate form. Destiny filled in her name. She filled in Amara's name. She reached the line that said father's name, and she looked at it. She held the pen above the line. She did not write anything. She handed the form back with the space blank. The nurse did not ask. She had seen it before. In that hospital, in that ward, she had seen it many times before. Destiny brought Amara home to the studio on Princeton Avenue. 480 square feet for 2 people now. The crib fit between the bed and the wall if she angled it. She went back to work 11 days later because her leave was unpaid and the rent was due in 6 days and formula cost $43 a can. He never called. He never texted. He never showed up at the door with an apology or a question or even a lie. He simply stopped existing in Destiny's life, as if the 8 months had been something she imagined. The only evidence he had ever been real was sleeping in a crib between her bed and the wall. 4 years. That is how long Destiny raised Amara alone. Not 4 years of misery. Not 4 years of crying into pillows or writing letters that were never sent. 4 years of Tuesday mornings and Saturday afternoons and every day in between. 4 years of a routine that never varied because it could not afford to. She clocked in at Harmony House at 6. She clocked out at 2. She picked Amara up from the Head Start program on Washington Road by 2:30. They drove home. She cooked dinner. She gave Amara a bath. She read her a story. They went to sleep. She woke up and did it again. 5 days a week, sometimes 6. Amara was sharp. She spoke in full sentences before she turned 2. She asked questions about everything. Why the sky changed colors. Why the water in the bathtub spun in a circle when it drained. Why some people at the grocery store used cards and some used paper money. Destiny answered every question she could. The ones she could not, she said she would find out, and she did. Amara asked about her father for the first time the month she turned 3. They were in the car, stuck in traffic on Camp Creek Parkway, and Amara said it from the back seat, the way children say things that change the temperature of a room without knowing they have done it. "Mama, where is my daddy?" Destiny watched the brake lights of the car in front of her for a moment. Then she said, "Your daddy is not here right now, baby, but I am, and I am not going anywhere." Amara accepted that the way 3-year-olds accept things, completely for about 2 weeks. Then she asked again and again. And each time, Destiny gave her the same answer in the same voice, with the same steady tone, because that is what you do when you do not have a better answer and you refuse to give a worse one. Destiny cut Amara's hair at home because the salon charged $35, and $35 was a tank of gas. She bought Amara's shoes at the thrift store on Jonesboro Road and cleaned them until they looked close enough to new. She packed Amara's lunch every morning because the school lunch cost $2.75 a day, and that was $13.75 a week, and that was a box of diapers she could no longer justify. But every year on Amara's birthday, there was a cake, not from a store. Destiny made it herself. Vanilla cake with buttercream frosting and whatever sprinkles were on sale at the dollar store. She made it after Amara went to sleep the night before and left it on the counter so that when Amara walked into the kitchen in the morning, it was the first thing she saw, every year, 4 years straight. That was the one thing Destiny refused to cut from the budget. In February, Amara's Head Start class did a drawing project. The teacher asked the children to draw their family. Amara drew 3 figures, herself in the middle. Her mother on the left, fully colored in brown skin, black hair, big smile. And on the right, a figure the same height as her mother, but with no face, no color, just an outline, a shape where a person should be. The teacher called Destiny in for a conversation. She showed her the drawing. She was gentle about it. She used words like attachment and identity and age-appropriate understanding. Destiny listened. She looked at the drawing. She did not say much. She thanked the teacher. She picked up the drawing and she took it home and she put it on the refrigerator with a magnet shaped like a strawberry. She did not take it down. She did not talk to Amara about it. She let it sit there on the refrigerator door where they both saw it every morning while Destiny poured cereal and Amara climbed onto her chair. A drawing of a family with a blank space in it. A shape with no face. Destiny looked at it every day for 2 months and said nothing. She had been living with blank spaces for 4 years. One more on the refrigerator did not change anything. Not yet. It started with the tiredness. Amara had always been a child who moved. She ran from the car to the front door. She climbed onto chairs she had no business climbing onto. She danced in the grocery store aisle to music only she could hear. That was Amara. Motion and noise and questions from the moment she opened her eyes until the moment Destiny carried her to bed. Then, in March, she stopped. Not all at once. Not in a way that announced itself. She just slowed down. She came home from Head Start and sat on the couch instead of running to the kitchen. She asked to be carried from the car instead of jumping out. She fell asleep at 5:30 in the afternoon with her shoes still on, and Destiny had to wake her for dinner. Destiny told herself it was a growth spurt. Children get tired when they are growing. She told herself that for 9 days. On the 10th day, Amara said her legs hurt. Not the way children say things hurt when they want attention. The way they say it when something is actually wrong. Quiet, confused, like the pain did not make sense to her and she needed her mother to explain it. Destiny made an appointment at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. They saw Dr. Adeyes Okonkwo on a Wednesday morning. Amara sat on the exam table in a paper gown with cartoon elephants on it, and swung her legs and looked at the ceiling tiles and counted them out loud while the doctor examined her. Dr. Okonkwo ordered blood work. The results came back 2 days later. She called Destiny in for a follow-up and asked her to come without Amara. Destiny's mother instinct heard that request and understood what it meant before the doctor said another word. She dropped Amara at Keisha's and drove to the clinic with both hands tight on the wheel. Dr. Okonkwo was direct. Amara's blood work showed sickle cell trait. She explained it carefully. Sickle cell trait means a person carries 1 copy of the sickle cell gene. It is not sickle cell disease, which is when a person carries 2 copies. Most people with the trait live completely normal lives, but in some cases, especially under certain conditions, the trait can cause complications. Bone pain, fatigue, difficulty at high altitudes, in rare situations more serious issues. 1 in 13 black newborns in the United States carries the trait. It is not uncommon, It is not a death sentence. But it is not nothing either, especially for a 4-year-old whose full medical picture is incomplete. Dr. Okonkwo turned to a form on her desk. She slid it toward Destiny. To build a complete care plan for Amara, I need her paternal medical history. Does sickle cell disease run in the father's family? Is there a history of stroke or heart complications on his side? These are not optional questions. They change how we monitor her and what we watch for. Destiny looked at the form. At the top of the second section there was a line, father's name, a blank line with nothing on it. She had seen that line before, 4 years ago in a hospital bed at Grady Memorial with a pen in her hand and a newborn beside her. The same blank space, following her. Is the father accessible? Dr. Okonkwo asked. I have not spoken to him in 4 years, Destiny said. I do not know where he is. The doctor paused. She did not push. She did not judge. She had seen this before. In this city, in this clinic, she had seen it more times than she could count. I understand, she said. But for Amara's sake, if there is any way to obtain that history, it would make a significant difference in her care. We can work with what we have, but what we do not have could matter. Destiny sat in the parking lot after the appointment for 7 minutes. The engine was running. The air conditioning was on. She was not crying. She was not angry. She was doing what she always did when the world handed her a problem that did not have a clean answer. She was thinking. For 4 years, she had built a life without Tyrone Brooks in it. She had filled every gap he left. She had answered every question Amara asked about him without saying his name. She had made peace with the blank space on the birth certificate because she had decided that a father who does not want to be found is not a father worth finding. But this was not about Tyrone. This was not about what he wanted or what she wanted or what had happened between them 5 years ago in a studio apartment on Princeton Avenue. This was about a 4-year-old girl whose blood was carrying something that needed answers from a man who had made sure he could not be reached. Destiny did not want to find Tyrone Brooks. She had to find him. Amara did not give her a choice. She started with what she had. His full name. The dealership on Old National Highway where he used to work. She called the next morning during her break at Harmony House. The woman who answered said Tyrone Brooks had left the company 2 years ago. No forwarding information. No, she could not share where he went. Company policy. Destiny called 2 other dealerships in the area. Nobody by that name on staff. She searched his name online. The phone number she had was disconnected. The email bounced. His old social media was gone. Not deactivated, gone, as if it had never existed. A man does not erase himself that thoroughly by accident. Tyrone had done this on purpose. He had made himself unfindable to the one person he did not want to hear from. Keisha found him. On a Thursday night at Destiny's kitchen table with Amara asleep in the next room, Keisha opened Instagram on her own phone and typed his name. Destiny had been blocked from his accounts. She could not see him, but Keisha could. Tyrone Brooks. New profile, new photos, new life. He had moved to a condo in Midtown. He had a new job at a luxury dealership on Peachtree Road. He wore fitted suits in his photos and stood next to cars that cost more than Destiny made in 3 years. His smile was the same. That part had not changed. The smile that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. He had simply pointed it at a different audience. Keisha scrolled. 3 weeks back, a photo. Tyrone's hand holding another hand, a diamond ring catching the light. The caption read, "She said yes." The woman's account was tagged, Simone Davenport. Keisha tapped through. Simone's profile was public. Every detail of the wedding laid out across 30 posts, like a catalog. The venue, a private estate in Buckhead. The date Saturday, the 19th. The time 4 o'clock ceremony, 5 o'clock cocktail hour, 6:30 reception. The color scheme, the florist, the caterer, the playlist, everything planned, everything paid for, everything perfect. Destiny looked at the screen. She scrolled slowly through Simone's photos, through Tyrone's photos, engagement pictures, couple trips, dinner dates, birthday celebrations. 2 years of a life built in public for everyone to see. 200 photos, and not one of them contained a child. Not one of them mentioned a daughter. Not one of them acknowledged that the man smiling in every frame had a 4-year-old girl in College Park who drew pictures of a family with a blank space where he was supposed to be. He had not just left, he had erased her. He had erased them both. Keisha put the phone down. She looked at Destiny. "You do not have to go there," she said. "I do not have a choice," Destiny said. Amara does not have a choice. 3 days before the wedding, Destiny walked into the Atlanta Legal Aid office on Pryor Street. She had called ahead. She brought Amara's birth certificate, the medical letter from Dr. Okonkwo, and the intake form the clinic had given her. She sat across from a legal aid counselor named Brenda, who had a nameplate on her desk and a box of tissues that looked like it got used often. Brenda explained the process. Under Georgia law, any mother can file a petition to establish paternity. There are 2 paths. The first is a voluntary acknowledgement. The father signs a form in front of a notary admitting he is the biological parent. It is fast. It is simple. It requires his cooperation. The second path is a court order. The mother petitions the court. The court orders a DNA test. If the test confirms paternity, the court issues a ruling. The father's name goes on the birth certificate. Child support can be ordered retroactively to the date of birth. The fastest way, Brenda said, is if he signs voluntarily. If he refuses, you file. The court handles the rest. But it takes time. Weeks. Sometimes months. My daughter does not have months, Destiny said. Her doctor needs his family's medical history now. Not in 90 days. Brenda looked at her for a moment. Then I would suggest you try the voluntary route first. Get him to sign. If he will not sign, come back here, and we file the petition that same day. Destiny took the voluntary acknowledgement form. She took a second copy in case the first one got damaged. She put both in the manila envelope along with the birth certificate and the medical letter. She thanked Brenda. She walked out onto Pryor Street into the afternoon sun and stood on the sidewalk and looked at the envelope in her hands. 3 pieces of paper. The birth certificate with the blank line. The medical letter with the diagnosis. The form that needed a signature from a man who had spent 4 years pretending her daughter did not exist. The morning of the wedding, Destiny woke at 5. Amara was still asleep. Destiny showered, dressed, and stood in front of the mirror in her studio apartment on Princeton Avenue. The blue dress from Goodwill, the only dress she owned that was not scrubs or sweatpants. She smoothed it with her hands. She checked the envelope. Everything inside, she put it in her bag. She drove Amara to Keisha's house at 7:30. Amara went inside carrying her stuffed rabbit and her shoes in the wrong hands. Destiny knelt down in the doorway and held her and told her she would be back before bedtime. Amara said okay and ran to the couch to watch cartoons. Destiny looked at Keisha. "If anything happens," she said, "Amara is with you." "Nothing is going to happen," Keisha said. "You are a mother doing what a mother does." Destiny drove north on I-85, College Park to Buckhead, 45 minutes on a Saturday morning. She watched the city change through the windshield. The strip malls and auto shops and churches with hand-painted signs gave way to tree-lined roads and stone walls, and houses set so far back from the street you could not see them from the car. The neighborhoods got quieter. The lawns got wider. The gates got taller. She turned off the highway and followed the directions on her phone through streets she had never driven on before, past homes with circular driveways and gardens and iron fences wrapped in ivy, past a country club with a guardhouse at the entrance, past a row of cars parked along the road, each one polished and expensive and perfectly aligned. She pulled into the overflow lot across from the estate. She turned the engine off. She sat. The venue was visible through the trees. White columns, string lights, flowers. She could hear the music from inside, faint and warm, the kind of music that comes from rooms where no one has any problems. She looked at the dashboard clock. She looked at the envelope on the passenger seat. She looked at her hands on the steering wheel. She picked up the phone and called Keisha one more time. Amara was fine. She was eating cereal and watching the Fish movie. She was okay. Destiny put the phone down. She picked up the envelope. She opened the car door. She stepped out onto the gravel and closed the door behind her and stood there for a moment in the Goodwill dress with a manila envelope in her hand, in a parking lot full of cars that cost more than her annual salary. She walked toward the music. The room was already full when Destiny stepped inside. The ceremony had ended 20 minutes earlier. The cocktail hour was in motion. 200 people filling a ballroom with high ceilings and crystal chandeliers and tablecloths so white they looked like they had never been touched. Waiters moved between clusters of guests, carrying silver trays of champagne flutes and bite-sized food arranged like art. A jazz quartet played in the corner. The air smelled like gardenias and warm bread and expensive perfume. Nobody stopped her at the door. Nobody asked for her name or checked a list. She walked in, and she blended into the crowd the way a person can blend into a crowd when the crowd is not looking for anyone who does not belong. She was a woman in a blue dress. She looked like she might be someone's +1 who had arrived late. She looked like she might work for the venue. She looked like she could be anyone. Nobody looked twice. She stood just inside the entrance and scanned the room. She moved her eyes from face to face the way you do when you are searching for a single person in a sea of strangers. She did not have to search long. Tyrone Brooks was standing near the center of the ballroom, gray suit tailored, white boutonniere on his lapel. He had a champagne glass in one hand and the other arm was around Simone Davenport. Simone was in a beaded ivory gown, smiling, leaning into him, while a photographer adjusted a lens and told them to hold still. Tyrone was laughing at something someone just said. The laugh that Destiny had heard 100 times in her apartment on Princeton Avenue. The same laugh, aimed at a different room. Destiny walked toward him. She did not run. She did not hesitate. She moved through the crowd the way water moves through gaps in a wall. Steady, inevitable. She passed a waiter. She passed a table covered in gift bags. She passed a woman who looked at her dress and looked away. She stopped 3 feet from Tyrone Brooks. He was mid-sentence. He was telling someone a story. He turned slightly and his eyes passed over her face and kept moving and then came back. His mouth was still open. The sentence was unfinished. His eyes locked on hers and something behind them shifted. The expression on his face did not change all at once. It changed in layers. Recognition first. Then confusion. Then something Destiny had never seen on Tyrone Brooks in the 8 months she had known him and the 4 years she had tried to forget him. Fear. She spoke quietly. Just loud enough for him and no one else. I am not here to ruin your day. I need 5 minutes. It is about Amara. She is sick. Tyrone did not step outside. He did not lower his voice and ask her to follow him to the hallway. He did not take her by the elbow and guide her to a quiet room where they could speak like 2 adults about a child they had made together. He did the thing that guilty men do when they are cornered in public. He got loud. I do not know you. He said it like a declaration. He stepped back from her. He raised his voice just enough for the people standing nearest to hear. I do not know what you are talking about. Someone call security. The room did not go silent all at once. It went silent in waves. The people closest to Tyrone stopped talking first, then the next circle, then the next, like a stone dropped into water. Within 5 seconds, every conversation in the ballroom had stopped, and 200 faces were turned in the same direction. Simone stepped forward. She looked at Destiny. She looked at Tyrone. She looked back at Destiny. Her face was calm. Her eyes were not. A man in a black suit near the door began walking toward them. Security. Destiny did not raise her voice. She did not cry. She did not flinch. She opened the manila envelope. She reached inside. She pulled out a single piece of paper and held it up with one hand where Tyrone and Simone and every person within 10 feet could see it. Amara Destiny Coleman, she said. Her voice was clear and even. Born November 14, 2021. Grady Memorial Hospital, Atlanta, Georgia. Father. She paused. She looked at the paper. She looked at Tyrone. Blank. You know why it is blank, Tyrone. The security guard stopped walking. He stood 6 feet away. He looked at Destiny. He looked at the birth certificate. He looked at Tyrone. He did not move. Simone had not spoken. She was standing with one hand on Tyrone's arm, and her eyes were moving between the paper in Destiny's hand and the face of the man she had married 40 minutes ago. She was reading the room the way smart people read rooms. She was calculating. She was beginning to understand that the woman in the blue dress from Goodwill was not a stranger, and the man in the gray suit was not the man she thought he was. Tyrone had 200 people in that room. Destiny had the truth. It was not a fair fight. It was never going to be. The security guard was 6 feet away and closing. Destiny could see him calculating. The envelope in her hand, the birth certificate visible, the room full of silent guests watching. He was reaching for her arm when the voice came from behind him. Wait. It was not loud. It did not need to be. The room was already silent. The word carried from the back of the ballroom to the front without effort. The security guard stopped. He turned. Everyone turned. Vivian Davenport was walking toward them, 58 years old. Silver dress, pearl earrings, posture that said she had spent her entire life entering rooms and expecting them to adjust. She was the mother of the bride. She had paid for half of everything in this building tonight. She walked past the security guard without looking at him. She walked past Tyrone without looking at him. She stopped in front of Destiny. She did not ask what was going on. She did not ask who Destiny was. She did not ask why this woman was standing in the middle of her daughter's wedding holding a birth certificate. She asked one question. What is wrong with your daughter? Destiny looked at her. She had expected to be removed. She had expected hands on her arms and a door closing behind her and the sound of the party resuming as if she had never been there. She had not expected this. She had not expected anyone in this room to hear the word sick and respond to it before responding to the spectacle. Destiny held the envelope against her chest. She is 4 years old, she said. Her name is Amara. She has sickle cell trait, and her doctor needs her father's medical history to build a care plan. The father is standing behind you. He has known about her since before she was born. He changed his number and disappeared. Vivian listened without interrupting. Her face did not change. Her eyes did not leave Destiny's. When Destiny finished, Vivian turned to Tyrone. Is this true? She said. Tyrone shook his head. His jaw was tight. I told you. I do not know this woman. I have never seen her before in my life. Vivian looked at him for a long time. She looked at him, the way someone looks at a painting they once trusted was real and are now seeing the brushstrokes for the first time. She did not argue. She did not press. She turned back to Destiny. Come with me, she said. 3 words. She said them the same way she might say pass the salt or close the door. She said them like the decision had already been made and the rest of the room was just catching up. She turned and walked toward the staircase at the far end of the ballroom. Destiny followed. The security guard stepped aside. The room watched them climb the stairs and disappear around the corner, and nobody moved. Vivian led her to a study on the 2nd floor. Bookshelves, a leather chair, a window overlooking the garden where the ceremony had taken place an hour before. The chairs were still arranged in rows. The flower arch was still standing. Vivian closed the door behind them and gestured to the chair. Destiny sat down. Vivian sat across from her. For a moment neither of them spoke. Then Vivian said, "Tell me everything, from the beginning." Destiny told her. Not the long version, the version that fits in the space between a mother who needs help and a stranger who might be willing to give it. Tyrone, 8 months, the pregnancy, the phone call, the silence, 4 years, the diagnosis, the blank line on every form. The doctor who said she needed answers from a man who had made himself impossible to find. Vivian listened the way people listen when they are not performing listening but actually doing it. She did not interrupt. She did not comfort. She sat still and she took it in. When Destiny finished, Vivian was quiet for a while. She looked at the window. She looked at the garden below where her daughter had just gotten married. Then she looked at Destiny, and her expression shifted into something Destiny did not expect. Not pity, not sympathy, recognition. The kind of recognition that only comes from someone who has stood in a version of the same room. Destiny did not know it yet. She would learn later that Vivian Davenport had not always been Vivian Davenport. That before Harold, and before the house in Buckhead, and before the private estate and the silver dress, Vivian had been 22 years old and pregnant and alone in a studio apartment in Savannah with a man's name missing from every form she filled out. She had been there. She had stood where destiny was standing. She never forgot it. "I need you to write down your phone number," Vivian said, "and I need you to answer when I call." Destiny wrote her number on a piece of paper from the desk. Vivian folded it and put it in her clutch. She walked Destiny to the side entrance of the estate so she would not have to pass through the ballroom again. At the door, Vivian put her hand on Destiny's arm. "Go home to your daughter," she said. "I will handle this from here." Destiny drove back to College Park in the dark. She picked up Amara from Keisha's house at 9:30. Amara was asleep on the couch with the remote in her hand and crumbs on her shirt. Destiny carried her to the car and drove home and put her in bed and stood in the doorway of the bedroom for a while and watched her breathe. She did not know what would happen next. She had done the only thing she could do. She had shown up. The rest was no longer in her hands. The wedding continued after Destiny left. The reception went on. The first dance happened. The toasts were given. The cake was cut. From the outside, it looked like every other wedding that had ever taken place in that estate. But Vivian Davenport sat at the head table with a piece of paper in her clutch and a silence that her husband noticed and her daughter did not. Vivian did not say anything to Simone that night. She watched her daughter dance with the man she had just married, and she smiled when Simone looked her way, and she held Harold's hand under the table, and she said nothing. There are things a mother does not say on her daughter's wedding night, even when every instinct tells her the truth cannot wait. Vivian waited, not because she was uncertain, because she was strategic. The next morning she called Harold at 6:15. He had gone for his walk around the neighborhood the way he did every morning since retiring from his family law practice 3 years earlier. He picked up on the second ring. Vivian told him everything. The woman, the birth certificate, the child, the sickle cell trait, the 4 years of silence. The look on Tyrone's face when Destiny said the name Amara. Harold listened. He did not ask if Vivian believed the woman. He had been married to Vivian for 34 years. He knew what she sounded like when she believed something. If what that woman said is true, Harold said, Simone married a man who lied about having a child. That is not a small lie. That is the kind of lie that changes everything underneath it. I know, Vivian said. What do you want to do? He asked. I want to find out the truth, she said. And then I want Simone to know it before it finds her on its own. 3 days after the wedding, Simone came to her parents' house for Sunday dinner. Harold grilled salmon. Vivian made collard greens and cornbread. They sat at the dining table the way they had sat at that table 1,000 times before. Simone talked about the honeymoon plans. She talked about the thank you cards. She talked about the photographer's timeline for delivering the photos. Vivian waited until the plates were cleared. Then she asked a question she had never asked her daughter before. Did Tyrone ever talk to you about past relationships? Simone looked at her. What do you mean? Did he ever mention having children? Simone set her glass down. He told me he has no children. He was very clear about it. It was one of the first things we talked about. Vivian looked at her daughter. She did not say anything else. She did not need to. The question was now inside Simone's head, and it would not leave. That was enough for now. While this was happening in Buckhead, Destiny was sitting in an exam room at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta with Amara on her lap. Dr. Okonkwo was reviewing the follow-up blood work. Amara's numbers were stable, but the care plan was still incomplete. The paternal history line on the form was still blank. We can manage what we can, see, the doctor said. But the information we are missing could change how we approach her care. If there is a family history of full sickle cell disease on the father's side, her monitoring schedule changes. If there is a history of stroke or cardiac events, we add screenings. Right now, we are making decisions with half the picture. Destiny looked at the form, the same blank line, following her from room to room, building to building, year to year. I am working on it, she said. She did not know that 20 miles away in a kitchen in Buckhead, the answer to that blank line was already in motion. She did not know that Vivian Davenport had her phone number in a clutch on a shelf and a husband who had spent 30 years practicing family law. She did not know that the help she needed was coming from the last place she would have expected. From inside the family of the man who had denied her daughter existed. Harold Davenport called Destiny on a Tuesday afternoon. She was in the parking lot at Harmony House, sitting in her car during her lunch break, eating a sandwich she had made at home because the cafeteria charged $7 and $7 was gas money. The number was unfamiliar. She almost did not answer. She picked up on the fourth ring. "Miss Coleman, my name is Harold Davenport. I am a retired family law attorney. My wife Vivian spoke with you at the wedding. I would like to help you establish paternity for your daughter." Destiny did not say anything for a long time. She sat in her car with the phone pressed to her ear and the engine off and the windows down and the sound of traffic on Washington Road filling the silence between them. She had spent 4 years solving every problem alone. She had carried every form and filled out every application and sat in every waiting room by herself. She did not know how to accept what was being offered because nobody had ever offered it. Why, she said. Harold's answer was not soft. It was not warm. It was precise. "I am not doing this as a favor, Miss Coleman. I am doing this because a child has a legal right to know who her father is, and a father has a legal obligation he cannot walk away from. Under Georgia Code, Section 19-7-46, any party, the mother, the alleged father, or the state, may petition to establish paternity. Once established, the court can order the father to provide medical records relevant to the child's care. It can also order retroactive child support dating to the child's birth." He paused. "There are 2 paths. The first is voluntary acknowledgement. The father signs a form admitting paternity. It is fast and it is simple, but it requires his cooperation. The second is a court order. We file a petition. The court orders a DNA test. If the test confirms what you already know, the court issues a ruling. His name goes on the birth certificate. Child support is calculated. Medical records are compelled." "How long?" Destiny asked. "If he signs voluntarily, days. If we go through the court, 60 to 90 days, sometimes longer. Amara's doctor says she needs the records now. Then we try the fast way first. And if he refuses, we file the petition the same afternoon." Harold drafted the petition that week. He filed it at Fulton County Superior Court on a Thursday morning. Tyrone Brooks received the court summons 10 days after his wedding. The paper was served at the luxury dealership on Peachtree Road, where he sold cars to people who measured their worth by what they drove. The process server walked in, asked for Tyrone by name, and handed him the documents in front of his manager and 2 colleagues. Tyrone called Destiny that evening. It was the first time she had heard his voice in over 4 years. It did not sound the way she remembered. The smoothness was gone. The charm that had made her laugh at a cookout on Hapeville Road 5 years ago was not there. His voice was tight and fast, and there was something underneath it that sounded like a man who had just realized the floor was not as solid as he thought. "What do you want?" he said. "Money. I will send money. Tell me a number. Just drop the case." Destiny was sitting at her kitchen table. Amara was in the next room watching television. She could hear the cartoon voices through the wall. She held the phone with one hand and looked at the form Dr. Okonkwo had given her, the one with the blank line sitting on the table in front of her. "I do not want your money," she said. "I want Amara's father on her birth certificate and his medical records in her doctor's file. You can do that in 15 minutes with a pen and a notary. Or the court can make you do it in 90 days. That is your choice." He was quiet for a moment. "You do not understand what you are doing," he said. "You are going to ruin my life over this." "Tyrone," she said, "you have a daughter. She is 4 years old. She is sick. And she needs something that only you can give her. That is not me ruining your life. That is your life catching up with you." He hung up. He did not sign the voluntary acknowledgement. He hired a lawyer instead. A man named Glenn Hartley with an office on Roswell Road who specialized in contested family cases and charged $400 an hour. Tyrone Brooks hired a $400 an hour lawyer to fight against a 4-year-old girl who needed his medical history. He did that. He chose that. Tyrone's lawyer filed a motion to dismiss the paternity petition. The argument was straightforward. There was no DNA evidence linking Tyrone Brooks to the child. The mother's claim was unsubstantiated. The timing was suspicious. She had appeared at his wedding, created a public disturbance, and was now pursuing legal action that appeared retaliatory in nature. The motion requested that the court dismiss the petition and impose sanctions on the filing party for what Glenn Hartley called a frivolous claim designed to harass and extort. Harold read the motion in his home office on a Saturday morning with a cup of coffee going cold on the desk. He was not surprised. He had practiced family law for 30 years. He had seen this motion filed by 100 different men with 100 different lawyers. The language changed. The strategy did not. He had prepared for it. 3 weeks before the hearing, Harold had asked Destiny a question. "Do you have any messages between you and Tyrone from when you were together, texts, emails, anything?" Destiny had kept every message. 5 years of texts, saved on a phone she had upgraded twice, but always backed up because somewhere in the back of her mind she believed Tyrone would come back. He did not come back, but the messages did. Harold scrolled through them in his office. He found what he needed in under 20 minutes. A text from Tyrone sent in July, 4 months into the relationship. "Did you go to the doctor yet?" Destiny had been 10 weeks pregnant. She had told him the week before. His response was not denial. His response was a question about a doctor visit for a pregnancy he clearly knew about. There were others. A text asking whether she had told anyone yet. A text saying he needed more time. A text that said, "I am not ready for this." Not, "I am not the father." Not, "I do not know what you are talking about." "I am not ready." The language of a man who knew exactly what was happening and chose to leave anyway. Harold filed the text records with the court. Glenn Hartley's motion to dismiss was denied. The judge ordered a DNA test. Tyrone Brooks would provide a sample within 14 days. But Harold found something else during the process. Something that changed the shape of the case entirely. While reviewing public records tied to Tyrone's name, Harold's paralegal pulled a filing from Bibb County, Georgia, Macon. A paternity petition filed 3 years earlier by a woman named Shanice Carter. The child was a girl, 7 years old at the time of filing. Father named in the petition Tyrone Darnell Brooks. Shanice had filed without a lawyer. She had filled out the forms herself. She had appeared at the preliminary hearing alone. Tyrone's lawyer at the time, a different firm, had filed a motion to dismiss. The motion was granted because Shanice could not afford the legal fees to continue. She dropped the case. The child, now 7 years old, was still without a legal father. Harold read the filing twice. He set it down on the desk. He looked at the wall. Then he called Destiny. "Your daughter is not the only one," he said. "There is another child in Macon. Same father, same pattern, different mother, same outcome. He has done this before." Destiny did not speak for a while. She was not surprised. That was the strangest part. She was not surprised because something inside her had always known that a man who disappears that cleanly has had practice. You do not erase yourself from a woman's life in under a month unless you have done it before. Tyrone had not made a mistake with Destiny. He had followed a procedure. The paternity filings were public record. Simone Davenport found them. Not because Vivian told her. Not because Harold shared the information. She found them because she had started looking. The questions her mother had asked at Sunday dinner had planted something, and it had grown in the 3 weeks since. She had typed Tyrone's name into the Fulton County Court Records database. She found the petition Destiny had filed. She read it. She read the name Amara Destiny Coleman. She read the date of birth. She read the claim. Then she searched Bibb County. She found the older petition. She read the name Shanice Carter. She read the child's age. She read the date the case was dismissed. Simone sat at her desk in the home she shared with Tyrone and read 3 documents on 3 different screens. 3 names: Destiny, Shanice, Tyrone. 2 children he had denied. 2 women he had left. 2 birth certificates with blank lines where his name should have been. and her own marriage certificate dated 3 weeks ago bearing the signature of a man who had told her clearly and directly that he had no children. He had not made one mistake. He had built a system. Simone closed the laptop. She did not cry. She did not call her mother. She sat in that room for a long time and let the information settle into the space where trust used to be. The DNA results came back on a Monday. 99.98% probability of paternity. Harold called Destiny at work. She stepped outside Harmony House into the parking lot and listened to him read the number. She did not cry. She did not smile. She stood in the sun with the phone against her ear and the sound of birds in the trees along Washington Road and said 2 things. I already knew. Then after a pause, now she will know too. The hearing was held at Fulton County Superior Court on a Wednesday morning 6 weeks after the petition was filed. Courtroom 4B, fluorescent lights, wooden benches, the smell of old paper and floor cleaner. Destiny sat on one side of the aisle with Harold. Tyrone sat on the other side with Glenn Hartley. They did not look at each other. The judge read the DNA results into the record. She read the petition. She read Tyrone's motion to dismiss and the denial of that motion. She read the text messages submitted as evidence. She looked at Tyrone. She looked at his lawyer. Neither of them spoke. The judge issued the ruling. Tyrone Darnell Brooks was hereby established as the legal father of Amara Destiny Coleman. He was ordered to provide his complete family medical history to the child's physician within 14 days. Child support was calculated retroactive to the date of the child's birth, as permitted under Georgia law when paternity is established after the fact. 4 years of support owed. The name Tyrone Darnell Brooks was to be added to the child's birth certificate, effective immediately. Glenn Hartley billed Tyrone $11,800 for the case. He lost. Harold handed Destiny the amended birth certificate in his office that afternoon. She sat across from his desk and held it with both hands. She read it slowly. Amara Destiny Coleman. Date of birth, November 14, 2021. Place of birth, Grady Memorial Hospital, Atlanta, Georgia. Mother Destiny Renee Coleman. Father Tyrone Darnell Brooks. Astony com Amara Destiny Coleman. She looked at the line she had left empty 4 years ago in a hospital bed with a newborn beside her and a pen in her hand and nothing to write. The line was filled now. The blank had a name. She did not frame it. She did not celebrate. She folded it carefully and put it in the manila envelope, the same envelope she had carried into a wedding in Buckhead, and she drove home to College Park and put it in the drawer next to Amara's Social Security card and the receipt from the Goodwill where she had bought the blue dress. She had what she came for. The rest would follow. Simone did not confront Tyrone the way people confront each other in movies. She did not throw his clothes on the lawn. She did not scream. She did not cry in front of him. She was Vivian and Harold Davenport's daughter. She had grown up watching her father build legal arguments the way other men built shelves, methodically, with evidence. She handled it the same way. She had already copied every document from the court filings, the paternity petition, the DNA results, the Bibb County record for Shanice Carter's daughter. She printed them. She organized them in a folder. She sat Tyrone down at the kitchen table in their apartment in Midtown on a Thursday evening and placed the folder between them. 2 children, she said. 2 women. 2 birth certificates with your name missing. And you sat across from me on our 3rd date and told me you had no children. You were clear about it. Those were your exact words. Tyrone started to speak. Simone held up her hand. I am not asking you to explain. I am telling you what happens next. She had already consulted her father. Under Georgia Code Section 19-4-1, a marriage can be annulled if it was entered into based on fraud. A deliberate lie about the existence of children prior to marriage constitutes fraud. Simone filed the annulment paperwork the following Monday. The marriage had lasted 53 days. The court filings were public record. Tyrone's name appeared in the Fulton County paternity case and the annulment filing within the same month. His manager at the dealership on Peachtree Road did not fire him. But the wage garnishment for retroactive child support arrived at the payroll office before Tyrone had a chance to explain it himself. His colleagues knew before he told them. His clients knew shortly after. In an industry built on trust and personal reputation, the court records did what no accusation could. They spoke for themselves. Harold contacted Shanice Carter in Macon. He called her on a Wednesday evening. He introduced himself. He told her about Destiny's case. He told her the petition had succeeded. He told her there was now legal precedent and a confirmed DNA match, and that her own case dismissed 3 years earlier for lack of resources could be reopened. Shanice was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "I stopped fighting because I could not afford to keep going. Not because I stopped believing it was right," Harold said. "You do not have to afford it this time." Shanice refiled her paternity petition in Bibb County the following week. Tyrone Brooks now faced 2 simultaneous child support cases in 2 different counties for 2 children he had spent years pretending did not exist. Dolores Brooks called her son on a Sunday afternoon. She was 61 years old. She lived in a house on Flat Shoals Road in Decatur that she had paid off by herself over 23 years. She had raised Tyrone alone. His father had left before Tyrone's first birthday, changed his number, moved to another state. The same pattern, the exact same pattern. She did not call to comfort him. She did not call to ask his side of the story. She said what she had been holding since the day she first heard about the court filing. "I raised you alone," she said. "Your father did the same thing to me that you have done to those women. And when you were 15 years old, you sat at my kitchen table and you looked me in the eye and you swore you would never be like him." She paused. "You became him." Tyrone did not respond. Dolores hung up. She did not call again. Tyrone had built his new life on the assumption that the old one would never come back. It came back. 3 months after the court ruling, Destiny's phone rang on a Saturday morning. She was in the kitchen making pancakes. Amara was sitting at the table drawing with crayons. The number was unfamiliar. Destiny almost did not answer. She had stopped answering numbers she did not recognize because for 4 years nothing good had ever come from an unknown call. She picked up anyway. "This is Simone." A pause. "Simone Davenport. I do not know if you remember me." Destiny turned the stove down. She looked at Amara. Amara was drawing a sun with 8 rays coming off it, each one a different color. Destiny walked to the bedroom and closed the door. "I remember you," she said. "I am not calling to apologize for him," Simone said. "That is not mine to give. I am calling because I spent 2 years with a man I did not actually know. And you spent 8 months with the same man, and you understood him better than I ever did. I have been sitting with that for a while, and I wanted to tell you." They met at a coffee shop on Peachtree Street in Midtown on a Tuesday afternoon. Destiny arrived first. She ordered a water because the coffee was $5 and she was still counting. Simone arrived 4 minutes later. She ordered 2 coffees and set one in front of Destiny without asking. They sat across from each other. 2 women in their late 20s, one in a dress that cost $300, one in scrubs she had changed out of 20 minutes ago. They did not become friends. They did not hug. They did not bond over a shared enemy. They sat together and talked the way 2 people talk when they have survived the same storm from different boats. Simone asked about Amara. Destiny showed her a photo on her phone. Amara on a swing at the park near their apartment, smiling, missing one front tooth. Simone looked at the photo for a long time. "She looks like him," she said. "She looks like herself," Destiny said. Simone set the phone down. She was quiet for a moment. "My mother told me something last week that I did not know. She was a single mother. Before my father. Before all of this. She was 22 in Savannah with a baby and no help, and a man who had disappeared. She never told me. Not once in my entire life." Destiny looked at her. "Why did she tell you now?" "Because she said she looked at you in that ballroom, and she did not see a stranger. She saw herself. 36 years ago. That is why she stopped the security guard. That is why she said, "Wait." She was not being kind. She was remembering. They sat together for another hour. They talked about things that had nothing to do with Tyrone. About work, and about family, and about what it means to build something from scratch when the person who was supposed to help you build it chose to leave instead. When Destiny left, she shook Simone's hand. Not because it was formal, because it was honest. Two women who owed each other nothing and gave each other something anyway. Recognition. The quiet kind that does not need a name. Destiny brought the paternal medical history to Dr. Okonkwo on a Thursday morning. 14 pages, family history going back 2 generations on Tyrone's side. The information Harold had compelled through the court order. The doctor read through it carefully. She cross-referenced it with Amara's existing records and blood work. There was a history of sickle cell trait carriers on the paternal side. Tyrone's mother was a carrier. His maternal grandmother had full sickle cell disease and had been managed for it her entire adult life. There was a history of mild cardiac issues in the family. No strokes, no organ complications related to sickling. The risk profile for Amara shifted from unknown to defined. Dr. Okonkwo looked up from the file. Amara has sickle cell trait. Based on the paternal history, she is unlikely to develop complications beyond what we have already seen. The fatigue and the bone pain she experienced were consistent with trait under stress, likely triggered by dehydration and physical exertion. It is manageable. With proper hydration, regular monitoring, and awareness of triggers, she can live a completely normal life. She paused. The difference between what I can tell you today and what I could tell you 3 months ago is this. 3 months ago, we were guessing. Today, we know. And knowing changes everything about how we protect her. Destiny drove home. She pulled into the lot at the apartment on Princeton Avenue and sat in the car for a moment. Not because she was upset, because she was letting it settle. The information she had driven 45 minutes to Buckhead in a Goodwill dress to get the information she had stood in a ballroom full of strangers and held up a birth certificate to demand. The information that had taken a court order and a DNA test and 2 paternity cases to extract from a man who would rather pay an $11,000 lawyer than spend 15 minutes with a notary. That information was now in her daughter's medical file, where it belonged. Amara was at the door when Destiny walked in. Keisha had dropped her off an hour earlier. She was wearing mismatched socks and holding a juice box and looking up at her mother with the expression that 4-year-olds have when they know something important has happened but do not know what. "Mama, am I okay?" Destiny knelt down. She put her hands on Amara's shoulders. "You are okay, baby. You are going to be just fine." Amara nodded. She accepted it the way she accepted everything her mother told her. Completely. Because Destiny had never lied to her. Not once. Not about the easy things, and not about the hard ones. That night, after Amara was asleep, Destiny sat on the floor of the living room with her back against the couch. The apartment was quiet. The television was off. The only light came from the kitchen. She had 2 things in front of her. The amended birth certificate unfolded lying on the carpet. And the drawing from the refrigerator. The one Amara had made at Head Start 5 months earlier. 3 figures. Destiny on the left, fully colored. Amara in the middle. And on the right, a shape with no face. An outline where a person should be. Destiny looked at the birth certificate. Tyrone Darnell Brooks. The blank had a name now. She looked at the drawing, the faceless figure standing next to her daughter. She reached over and picked up the drawing. She held it for a moment. Then she took it down from the invisible refrigerator door in her mind, where it had been hanging for 5 months, and set it on the table beside her. Not because she was angry, not because she was sad, because Amara would draw another picture. The next one would be different. Destiny did not know what it would look like. She did not need to. The blank space on the birth certificate had been filled. The blank space in the drawing was Amara's to decide. When she was older, when she was ready, when she understood enough about the world to make that choice for herself. Destiny folded the birth certificate and put it back in the envelope. She put the drawing on the table. She turned off the kitchen light. She walked to the bedroom door and stood there for a while, listening to her daughter breathe. The blank had a name. The picture would change. That was enough. Destiny Coleman walked into a wedding she was not invited to with a manila envelope and a $12 dress from Goodwill. She walked out with nothing new in her hands. No check, no apology, no promise. But she walked out as the only person in that room of 200 who had told the truth. She had not gone there for revenge. She had not gone there for money. She had gone there for a blank space on a piece of paper that her daughter deserved to have filled. A child does not choose who their father is, but a father chooses every single day whether to show up or disappear. Tyrone chose to disappear. He changed his number. He erased his accounts. He stood at an altar and married someone new and told her he had no children, while a 4-year-old girl in College Park was drawing a picture of her family with a faceless shape where he was supposed to be. He chose that. Every single day for 4 years he chose that. Destiny chose differently. She chose to show up. At 6 in the morning for the shift nobody wanted. At the Head Start pickup line at 2:30. At the kitchen table making birthday cakes from dollar store sprinkles. At a medical office holding a form with a blank line that followed her from room to room. And finally, at a wedding in Buckhead, in a dress she bought for a job interview she did not get, with an envelope full of papers and a truth nobody in that room wanted to hear. Every child has a right to know where they come from. A right to a name on a birth certificate. A right to a medical history that might save their life. That is not opinion, that is law. And it is a law that millions of children in this country are still waiting for someone to enforce on their behalf. Nearly 4 out of every 10 children born in the United States are born to unmarried parents. Many of them will grow up with blank lines on forms that should have been filled years ago. Destiny fought for one line on one form for one child. That fight should not have taken a courtroom and a crashed wedding and a $400 an hour lawyer standing on the wrong side. But it did. Was Destiny right to walk into that wedding? Or should she have waited and gone through the courts from the start? This one is going to divide the room. Leave your answer below. If you know a mother who has fought this fight alone, send this to her. She will understand. Subscribe. I will see you in the next one. One last thing. This story is fiction. Destiny and Tyrone and Amara are not real people, but the situation they are in is real for millions of families across this country. If you or someone you know is navigating paternity establishment, help is available. Your state's Child Support Enforcement Office can guide you through the process. Legal aid organizations provide free representation to parents who cannot afford an attorney. Every child deserves to know where they come from. Every child deserves a complete medical file. Those are not privileges. Those are rights. I wrote this story because I believe the people who show up even when it is terrifying, even when nobody invited them, even when the room is full of people who would rather they had stayed home, are the people who change things. Destiny walked into a room full of strangers and told the truth. Sometimes that is all it takes.